My guest today is Jill Stein, nominee for President of the United States with the Green Party. Thank you very much for joining me, Dr. Stein.
It's great to be with you guys.
Really, really appreciate it. Thanks for coming. I read you said you'd be the underdog candidate for the underdog voters. Who are these underdog voters?
It's certainly most of the American public. People are losing their jobs, wages are declining, millions have lost their home, another million are in the pipeline to lose their homes this year. The cost of health care is skyrocketing. Public higher education is increasingly out of reach. We have 36 million young people who are students or recent graduates who are effectively indentured servants because they don't have the jobs or the wages to repay these unforgiving debts. And the political establishment is not doing anything about it, while a very small segment of the American population, the 1% we say, is making out like bandits. So neither party is fixing this.
I just want to make this clear. You're going to be on ballots, but not in all states. Can you explain what is it in the system in the U.S. that makes it so hard for a third party to break into this two-horse race?
Exactly. The American system is designed to eliminate political opposition, like some of the dictatorships that we criticize that have rigged political systems. In many ways, the American system is also rigged, but in ways that are not as straightforward. So you have to actually see what it takes to get on the ballot if you're not already on as one of the big machine parties. Each state has its own set of rules, which are very demanding, very detailed and bureaucratic, and require lots of signatures in order to get on the ballot. So for the most part, you need a lot of money, many millions of dollars, to buy your way onto the ballot, basically by hiring signature gatherers and people to keep track of this.
It just seems the money is too powerful here in Washington. Is there a way you see to go against money, the power of money?
Absolutely. I mean, the voters don't like this. The voters repeatedly are calling for getting big money out of politics. In my home state in Massachusetts, we passed a law to get the big money out. We, the voters,
the
did.
Supreme Court passed another law which just lifts all limits from contributions into political
And what
campaigns.
I was going to add was that in our state, when we passed it by voter referendum, the legislature, which was 85% Democratic Party, they repealed it. So the entrenched system is very hostile to the needs of the American people.
The Green Party often described itself as the party that represents Main Street versus Wall Street, as you've just been saying. In what way do Barack Obama and Mitt Romney represent Wall Street that is against the interests of the American people?
Mitt Romney doesn't really pretend even to do anything other than advance the economic elite's agenda. He has a track record, which is to advance the likes of his own, to acquire enormous amounts of wealth by tearing down other companies and businesses and firing workers and offshoring jobs and gobbling up the profits himself. So he's got a track record which is pretty clear, and he's pretty much straight ahead Wall Street agenda. With Barack Obama and the Democratic Party, it's a little harder to see clearly what they're about because they do talk a populist line, but to actually look at their record, it's pretty clear who their allegiances are to. So George Bush provided about $800 billion in bailouts for Wall Street, but under Barack Obama, it's been many trillions, some $4.5 trillion worth of bailout that has already been dispersed, and then there are many more trillions worth of loans and emergency loans and guarantees, and then quantitative easing through the Fed, and all kinds of backdoors to basically funnel either out-and-out bailouts or free money to Wall Street. So Mitt Romney is Wall Street, he's the wolf in a wolf's clothing. Barack Obama is the wolf in a sheep's clothing. but they both essentially have the same agenda.
Dr. Stein, can you talk a little bit more about your involvement with the Occupy movement? Has the movement been big enough to make a sort of a tectonic shift in U.S. politics?
I believe that that tectonic shift is happening, and Occupy is one of the indicators that it is happening. And it's happening because 1 out of every 2 Americans is now either in poverty or low income. Americans are really hurting and are desperate for solutions which they are not getting. So there is a rebellion that is in full swing. Occupy speaks for that rebellion. We saw in polls early on that a majority of Americans, a substantial majority of Americans, was very sympathetic and supportive of the agenda that Occupy was articulating.
But with the majority, it's kind of a silent rebellion, right?
Exactly. We are silenced. You know, I believe it is not silent, but our voices are continually muzzled through all kinds of ways. We can't speak out politically. The media is very much in the hands of big corporations.
The Congress approval rating is 11%, so
Exactly.
it is people are unhappy, but it's a silent
by design,
protest.
right? So that people have to work very hard to break through. And Occupy got to critical mass by assembling, you know, in our public squares. And they were very effective in breaking through until the public relations campaign began to be conducted against them. And we saw that because that PR campaign actually got leaked. It was a many hundreds of thousands of dollars campaign that was constructed even before the counterattack began. So you had both a media counterattack and then you had a counterattack by way of police brutality and the suppression of our civil liberties as people were brutally attacked.
Let's talk foreign policy. Let's switch gears. For many years now, probably since the collapse of the Soviet Union, every U.S. president, every administration took the idea of the U.S. being the world police sort of to the next level. Mm-hmm. President Obama was no exception. What is it? What is at the basis of this world police policy as you see it? And would you carry on with it as a president?
This world police policy is bankrupting Americans. We're spending about $1 trillion a year on the military industrial security complex. That budget has roughly doubled over the last 10 years, and we are certainly not more secure for it. We spent trillions of dollars in Iraq. When we withdrew from Iraq, how did we do it? We withdrew from Iraq in the dead of night at a secret undisclosed date because we were afraid that we would be ambushed in the process. How many friends exactly did we make in this war? What kind of a stable democracy did we make in Iraq? You know, Iraq continues to teeter on the brink of a civil war. It has certainly not become a staunch and reliable ally for the United States or for democracy or for women's rights, for that matter. The barrel of a gun has not been an effective diplomat, and we need to heed that and take a lesson from it. Unfortunately, President Obama basically embraced George Bush's, militaristic approach to foreign policy. On his 3rd day in office, he intensified the bombing in Pakistan, then went on to spread the drone wars into Somalia and into Yemen. He surged the troops into Afghanistan. We still have about twice as many troops as we had under George Bush. It has certainly not made Afghanistan a safer, more secure place. We are not in a better position to, withdraw now and declare victory than we were, years ago. We know that when you have the kind of civilian casualties that you have with drone bombing, for example, that you simply aid and abet those very terrorist organizations that you are trying to go after in the first place.
What is it that makes you concerned with regards to Mitt Romney's foreign policy plans, if anything?
His plans are basically, let's increase the military budget, he has a lot of sort of machismo and bravado and he beats the war drum. You know, he wants to, really flex muscle against Iran. But, so too does the Obama administration, though they're a little bit more, they're less warmongering about it, but they're basically in agreement about coming down very hard on Iran and holding no options off the table. So they both threaten to use war where we should be using diplomacy.
We talked about money in politics, and everyone knows campaigns are not cheap. You're a physician. Your net worth is probably far from Mitt Romney's $200 million. Your party is financing a lost cause, basically, at this stage. What is the goal, the real goal at this stage?
In my view, to say it's a lost cause is to say that our economy is a lost cause. Is to say that it's inevitable that we're going to crash. And so
I don't mean that.
Okay.
I mean the elections.
I would agree. I mean, I think that the uphill battle for our election is identical to the uphill battle to rescue our economy. We are a real political party. We're not just the storefront that looks like it's Main Street but is actually funded by Wall Street. That's what the other political parties are. They pretend to really have public support, but what they really have is the support of the 1%, and then they have a propaganda campaign going on and intensive public relations and psychological warfare that's intended to convince people that they don't have any options.
Dr. Stein, thank you very much for being here. Thank you.
It's great talking with you.